Nous allons donc passer au point 6 sur les activités. Et là, le rapport du secrétariat, veuillez vous référer au document LHE/20/8.GA/6. J'invite donc M. Curtis à nous donner des informations complémentaires sur ce point à l'ordre du jour. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Dear Assembly, I would like to start by saying once again that it is indeed a pleasure to see you all here, and the Secretariat would like to thank everyone for their support and understanding in the organization of this meeting under what I might call, I'm sure you'll agree, less than normal circumstances. This has indeed been a particular and challenging year for everyone, including, of course, us in the Secretariat and for our work. So for this reason, I'd start my presentation, if I may, with only a brief overview of the work undertaken by the Secretariat during the reporting period, which is specifically January 2018 to December 2019. But I won't go over everything that's in the report, and I would invite you to consult it for more details, as I propose to focus the majority of the time on the content contained in the addendum of the report, which details our entities, the living heritage entities' response in line with that of UNESCO to the COVID-19 pandemic, and which comes just after the reporting period. But let me start with the reporting period, and as was mentioned this morning under the reports of the committee, one of the key achievements has been the reform of the periodic reporting mechanism. After the adoption of the overall results framework for the Convention at the 7th session of the General Assembly in 2018, the Secretariat incorporated its indicators in a new periodic reporting form. This, I can assure you, was a major undertaking, which I'm happy to say we were able to achieve in time for the launch of the new regional cycles. And I will tell you more about the first cycle, which is currently underway, as we heard this morning, in Latin America and the Caribbean, and I will report more later on. I have no doubt that the impact has had a major impact globally, that the Convention, has had a major impact globally, and it is our hope that this new reporting system will be able to tell that story with much more data to back it, and with data that also emphasizes the implementation of the Convention at community, local, and country levels. I'd like to move on to share several developments that have happened over the past 2 years related to international assistance. During this time, the Secretariat has made efforts, and I'm glad to report international assistance mechanism is better operationalized now. Now, more than ever, this means that the Convention is better able to support safeguarding efforts at national levels. You may recall that 2 years ago, this Assembly approved the creation of 3 fixed-term extra budgetary posts, and we're, of course, very happy to know that the recruitment process has been finalized and the new safeguarding, implementation and monitoring team is operational and has been operational since October of last year. And this helps immensely and is a contributing factor to our ability to deliver greater international assistance. Although the team has only recently arrived, they are focused on continuing the high implementation as well as initiating monitoring actions and gathering lessons learned. At the moment, we have 23 ongoing international assistance projects representing a total amount of $2.76 million United States dollars, and 50 of those projects are based in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, building on this progress I've just mentioned, I would also like to highlight that this has been a period of reflections related to the Convention, and again, we heard discussions already on this morning. There has been, to start, a reflection on the participation of non-governmental organizations in the implementation of the Convention. Together, we revisited the purpose and processes for the accreditation system and the definition of advisory functions, amongst other issues. You will hear more about this reflection under item 12. And a second reflection, that which was referred to several times this morning and which is very much ongoing, is the reflection on the listing mechanisms of the Convention. As part of this, we've taken a first step to make the inscription process better respond to the needs of state parties through the upstream dialogue process. The present Assembly will be asked to adopt operational directives under item 10 This reflection on the listing mechanism is foreseen to continue until 2022, with an expert meeting, as mentioned by Japan, and with thanks to Japan, as mentioned this morning, as well as an open-ended intergovernmental group still to come next year. So next year, when we do not have a General Assembly, we will plan the 3-day open-ended or 2 or 3-day open-ended intergovernmental group to discuss in details these potential reforms of the listing mechanisms. It is also a great pleasure for me to inform you that our global capacity building program remains very active. At the start of the reporting period, 70 countries have benefited from the program. During the 2 years, the overall number of countries has now increased to 95 countries that have benefited from the capacity building program. There's been a continued expansion of the facilitators network through 7 training of trainings workshops, and I'm also very happy to say that we've had good collaboration and cooperation with many of the Category 2 centers to roll out this program. Nearly a decade since it first started, we have now begun to reflecting on how to sustainably continue the program in a way that it may continue to grow and meet demand. For this purpose, we commissioned a feasibility study that outlined possibilities for potential future partnerships to assist the Secretariat in the expansion of the program. And moreover, recent experiences, which I will mention shortly, have shown how the need to shift to an online modality has provided, in fact, valuable insights and lessons for future opportunities related to capacity building. As you may also recall, a second priority on safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in formal and non-formal education was endorsed by the committee in 2017. We were encouraged by, and indeed we were encouraged by the immediate enthusiasm with 15 field officers across all regions undertaking related activities under the regular program this biennium. Together with the education sector, we have been able to find concrete areas where our work naturally converges, such as global citizenship education and education for sustainable development. I'm pleased to tell you that it is truly a joint initiative that provides a clear contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals, and notably through SDG 4. We are also starting to see good results from our work on communication and outreach. We developed key messages and targeted new audiences, such as youth and Indigenous people in the last year. And finally, I hope you've all seen the online tool developed during the reporting period, Dive into Intangible Cultural Heritage. And if not, I would invite you to take a look at it on the convention's webpage. It provides a new way of visualizing the multifaceted and holistic nature of living heritage. And we have plans to go further by using the tool to show and explore the many contributions that safeguarding elements on the convention lists can make to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a brief overview, and there is more detail in the report of what we have done during the reporting period. But now I'd like to turn what is very much at the forefront of all of our thoughts and our attentions. As we all know, since early 2020, the world has been facing a global public health crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. And as I speak these words, people around the globe are still suffering from its impact. At UNESCO, as elsewhere, it has meant some important changes to the way we work and the way we interact with one another, including, as you can see, at our meeting today. I'd just like to take a brief moment to update you on the changes we've had to make this year and what it might mean for our work going forward. As you are aware, a major change was at the present meeting, first of all, had to be rescheduled twice. And as a result, the budget for the first semester obviously had to be reprogrammed. We also decided this year to exercise leniency for submissions from states, both for the nominations under the 2021 cycle, as well for the periodic reports from Latin America and the Caribbean. In both cases, states are still asked to submit by the deadline, but at least to send the intention to submit so that we meet the statutory obligations, even if they wish to complete their submissions at a later stage. However, perhaps one of the biggest changes, in my opinion, or at least the one that brought the most innovation to our work, was shifting some of our activities online, which was new to us. And this started in particular with a capacity building approach for the periodic reporting in Latin America and the Caribbean. The training was completely adapted to a 6-week online course that included weekly webinars, videos, reading materials, online forum sessions. This was instead of a 3-day intensive workshop as originally planned. Despite the short time frame in which to bring the course online, the training proved to be in fact quite successful, and we had good feedback from participants. 32 states, parties, and senior facilitators from the region were able to attend this online meeting. We also had to adapt and do a very different type of meeting for the second meeting of the evaluation body online. This was quite tricky, and it came with its own set of challenges, but once again, the body was able to successfully complete all of its work during the meeting, and this time thanks also to the assistance from a new online interface that facilitated consultations amongst the members. By using this technology, evaluation body members were able to share their opinions online before and even during the meeting in the work to achieve consensus on the evaluation of the individual criteria of each file. The third meeting, which will happen in 2 weeks, will also be online. From these online meeting experiences, we've learned quite a few lessons. While it is indeed possible for us to conduct meetings and trainings online, it is important to put careful consideration into the appropriate modalities, the formats, the lengths, the methods of communications, the online support teams, and other things that are needed to accompany the meetings. Designing and conducting effective and efficient meetings online has been a serious challenge. But we do hope to apply the lessons learned so far, and now to the expert meeting on the reflection of the listing mechanisms as well as to future capacity buildings. What is clear is that we cannot hold an online meeting just in the same format and in the same way we hold a presential meeting or we used to. Another thing I'd like to mention quickly related to the changes to our work is concerning international assistance. Responding to requests from states, 6 projects had to be extended since the start of the pandemic. We were also able, despite various challenges, to conclude 6 international assistance projects, and finally, encouragingly, we have received 6 new requests during that period. So I've almost come to the end of my presentation, but if you agree, I'd like to take the opportunity to update you also what we've been doing as part of our contribution to the culture sector and UNESCO-wide response to the pandemic. All of this information I will share with you has been published in a snapshot document, which is available on the web platform dedicated to this topic. We did make brochures, but we are not distributing them because of the COVID pandemic, but you'll be able to see it online. In April, we launched a survey on living heritage experiences in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, bringing community voices to the forefront and allowing them to speak about the impact of the crisis on their living heritage. The response to the survey, which is ongoing, has been incredible. We have had more than 300 replies, of which more than 200 have been shared online on the dedicated web platform. All of this was able to happen even though our team in Paris were all at home during lockdown. So the survey found that in some cases there have been disruptions to the enactment and transmission of living heritage. Events have been cancelled, access to necessary spaces, places, and objects have sometimes been restricted, and of course there has been an important loss of income and livelihoods for many. We've also learned that living heritage has adapted to an ever-changing environment and has allowing communities to explore new ways to express, transmit, and safeguard their intangible cultural heritage despite all of these restrictions. Through the survey, we've seen that communities are engaging with their intangible cultural heritage as a source of resilience. We have seen that enjoying one's living heritage can be a source of spiritual and emotional comfort, and that it can provide alternative income and strengthen networks of mutual aid. It can also be used to communicate information about the pandemic through poetry, song and storytelling. What I would really like to emphasize here is that this period has really shown us the relevance of the convention in the face of global challenges. In this regard, the response has followed the ongoing reflections of the governing bodies of the Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage and Emergencies. You will discuss this topic tomorrow under item 9 and will be asked to adopt the operational principles and modalities for safeguarding intangible cultural heritage and emergencies. And finally, I would like to invite all of you to a special online event that is happening tomorrow during the lunch break. You will have the opportunity to hear firsthand from community members whose living heritage has been impacted by the pandemic. I hope it will be an engaging and enlightening dialogue and that we will see you all there. Although it is held online, it will also be rebroadcast in this room and as well as in room 2 from 1:30 to 2:50. You can also find a link to join the event from your own device on the 8GA webpage. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci infiniment, Monsieur le Secrétaire, pour ce rapport très complet et très opportun. J'ouvre maintenant les débats. Si vous souhaitez prendre la parole, levez vos pancartes et on fera la liste. Autriche. Bien, je vais vous lire la liste des demandes reçues. Au fur et à mesure, je vous citerai. Baissez vos pancartes, s'il vous plaît. Autriche, Colombie, Jamaïque, Italie, Palestine, Brésil, Suisse, Suède, République tchèque, République de Corée, Allemagne, Chine, Arménie, Azerbaïdjan, Philippines, Lituanie, Panama et Finlande. Ouzbékistan? Okay. De ce côté. On ne voit pas bien d'ici. Norway. Okay. Je reprends depuis la Finlande, Ouzbékistan, Japon, Pays-Bas, Bangladesh, Émirats arabes unis et Norvège. Si c'est complet, je donne la parole à l'Autriche.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to thank the Secretariat for their dedicated work and excellent preparation of this meeting, even under these very particular circumstances. We appreciate the quality of the work and acknowledge the high workload of the Secretariat. The 2003 Convention has become a milestone to protect and safeguard our intangible cultural heritage. Austria continues to be deeply committed to the values and principles of the Convention. We have followed the developments very closely, including during our membership in the committee, and fully support the principles of the Convention. We welcome the Secretariat's immediate reaction in this time of a global emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of initiatives to support capacity building during the lockdown, like the online tool Living Heritage Experiences and the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Resilia initiative. Both have been very successful. By giving a platform to learn from each other, the presented examples are not only a valid reference point for current times, but also for the future, as more crises will bound to happen. They showcase human creativity even in difficult times and demonstrate that ICH has a large impact on communities coping with the pandemic. The last months have also shown us that we are on the right track with the topic ICH and emergencies, which we have followed now for several years. We also support the topics ICH and education, including global citizenship education for sustainable development and ICH in urban contexts. With a view to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, we are looking forward to our common discussions on important topics like ICH and sustainable tourism, or the role of museums for ICH. Once again, please allow me to compliment the Secretariat for the excellent work. We wish to thank you for your continuous support with great know-how, particularly including your active participation in our national COVID projects online session. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Je donne la parole à la Colombie.
Gracias, presidente. Agradezco a la Secretaría la presentación del informe de actividades del bienio que comprueba, a casi 20 años de su aprobación, la creciente importancia de la Convención de 2003 para la salvaguardia del patrimonio cultural inmaterial. Año tras año, el concepto de patrimonio cultural inmaterial se consolida, se extiende y se convierte en un gran movilizador de iniciativas que contribuye a la salvaguardia de las memorias e identidades de nuestros pueblos. Colombia aplaude los avances que ha hecho la Secretaría por consolidar, con el concurso del Buró del Comité, la asistencia técnica internacional mediante proyectos emblemáticos, innovadores, participativos, concretos y en terreno. Por propiciar la reflexión sobre el lugar que ocupa el patrimonio inmaterial en la educación formal y no formal y en la educación técnica y vocacional. Por fomentar y divulgar la investigación especializada. Por generar nuevas reflexiones sobre la relación del patrimonio inmaterial en contextos urbanos o sobre asuntos tan críticos como la pandemia que hoy sacude nuestras vidas y nuestras instituciones, y sobre otros fenómenos como los desastres naturales y ambientales o la discriminación, la xenofobia y el discurso del odio que lleva a la estigmatización y la exclusión de la diferencia y pone en juego la sostenibilidad de conocimientos ancestrales e irreemplazables. Con respecto a lo anterior, destaco nuestra activa participación como país respecto de asistencia internacional, receptor de asistencia internacional mediante la realización de los proyectos Mi Patrimonio, Mi Región, Estrategia de Fortalecimiento de Capacidades en Gestión Social del Patrimonio Cultural Inmaterial en 2 departamentos de la región colombiana del Orinoco y Patrimonio Cultural Inmaterial como base para la resiliencia, la reconciliación y la construcción de paz en el marco de los post-acuerdos. Este último en el marco del proceso de estabilización y consolidación del Acuerdo de Paz en Colombia. Gracias a la Secretaría por su respaldo y acompañamiento en la puesta en marcha de estas 2 iniciativas que han servido para generar metodologías susceptibles de ser replicadas. Subrayo igualmente en el terreno de la educación y más específicamente de la formación técnica y profesional, la incorporación al registro de buenas prácticas de la estrategia de salvaguardia de oficios tradicionales que hoy se resume en una vigorosa red de escuelas taller y de talleres escuela de oficios tradicionales con el reconocimiento de nuestro Instituto de Formación para el Empleo. Subrayo también la especial contribución del Ministerio de Cultura de Colombia a la reflexión sobre el patrimonio cultural inmaterial en contextos urbanos, reflexión que promovimos en Mauricio con un side event convocado por nuestra delegación y que contó con la presencia del subdirector general de Cultura, Ernesto Otón, y con casi 100 participantes en el memorable comité de Port Louis. En relación a lo informado por la Secretaría sobre los centros de categoría 2, como representante de un país de América Latina y del Caribe, me siento obligada a reconocer muy especialmente la contribución en este bienio del Centro Regional de Salvaguardia del Patrimonio Cultural Inmaterial, CRESPIAL, con sede en Cusco, que se ha convertido en un verdadero think tank sobre la convención y en un gran activador de procesos de fortalecimiento de capacidades en los países que lo integramos, lo que se demuestra actualmente con la capacitación ofrecida a nuestros países en relación con las nuevas metodologías y los nuevos ciclos de los informes periódicos. Esta convención, si la implementamos adecuada y participativamente, contribuirá a proteger grandes reservas de diversidad que hoy se encuentran amenazadas y a mantener vivas grandes fuentes de sabiduría que han llegado hasta nuestros tiempos gracias a miles de personas, comunidades, pueblos que se esforzaron por transmitir de generación en generación valores, saberes y manifestaciones que engrandecen a la humanidad. Muchas gracias.
Merci beaucoup. La Jamaïque.
Allow me to congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, and the new Bureau, and extend our best wishes for success in the discharge of your responsibilities. I would like to commend the Secretariat for the steadfastness and impact of its work undertaken in fulfillment of its mandate, and for the comprehensive written and oral report on its activities. Permit me to make a few comments on aspects of the report. In relation to the governance of the 2003 Convention and on the matter of periodic reporting, Jamaica welcomes the reform of the reporting mechanism to focus on targets and results. We express our appreciation for the opportunity to participate in online training and extend our appreciation for the welcome extension of the deadline for the submission of national reports. As it concerns international assistance requests, my delegation recognizes the work of the Secretariat in providing much-needed assistance to state parties and towards improving the quality and number of requests. In the area of operational activities, and turning to intangible cultural heritage and education and intangible cultural heritage in emergencies, Jamaica highlights the importance of these initiatives, and in particular, the Secretariat's work on safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in formal and non-formal education. We look forward to the project in Latin America and the Caribbean received in November 2019 as a contribution of the Netherlands. In 2019, Jamaica was one of 3 countries in which the Intangible Heritage and Creativity for Sustainable Cities project was implemented. The project focused on identifying and better understanding the key issues related to safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage in urban contexts. The first phase took place as a pilot with 2 other countries, Georgetown in Malaysia and Harare in Zimbabwe. In Jamaica, the focus was around Trenchtown and Port Royal, with the use of ICH facilitators from the Caribbean, Curaçao and Jamaica, which was particularly beneficial. The project was completed successfully and is now on to phase 2 with other cities. The benefits commend its continuation. Finally, a comment on communication and outreach. We would like to emphasize the importance of the use of online platforms to extend the reach of capacity building among states, especially within the context that the COVID-19 pandemic has presented. This development would benefit a wider cross-section of persons than the customary smaller face-to-face meetings, would allow. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Merci beaucoup. Italie.
Merci. L'Italie tient à féliciter avant tout le président pour sa nomination et lui souhaite plein succès dans le déroulement des travaux, dans un esprit de dialogue et de compréhension réciproque. La période que nous venons de traverser et qui n'est pas encore stabilisée est unique et extraordinaire. Comme il a été dit à plusieurs reprises déjà, l'UNESCO a fait des immenses efforts pour répondre vite et de manière efficace à cette situation dans tous les domaines de sa compétence. Dans le contexte de la crise sanitaire avec laquelle nous sommes confrontés, la Convention de 2003 pour la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel a confirmé toute sa valeur et toute son actualité. Nous voudrions remercier le Secretariat pour ces rapports qui identifient de nombreux points que nous considérons très importants pour la future mise en œuvre de la Convention 2003. Des prochaines demandes d'assistance internationale que nous devrons examiner aux travaux des organes et des évaluations d'ici à la fin de cette année, du processus de candidature 2021 à l'approche des renforcements des capacités. Pendant les prochains jours, on aura le temps de parler de tous ces points. Parmi eux, nous voudrions souligner en particulier l'importance de la réflexion qui devra être menée sur les mécanismes d'inscription, qui est finalisé à identifier des règles claires, partagées par tous et cohérentes avec la Convention et avec les décisions jusqu'ici adoptées par les comités. Si la pandémie du Covid-19 ou plus récemment les explosions au Liban du mois d'août ont souligné la fragilité du patrimoine vivant dans les situations d'urgence, ce même patrimoine dynamique par nature a montré et continue à montrer sa capacité de s'adapter et d'évoluer. Resiliart, la plateforme créée par l'UNESCO afin de partager et d'échanger des expériences sur les patrimoines vivants dans le contexte de la pandémie, est un exemple à suivre à cet égard. Elle a permis aux communautés de mesurer l'impact de la pandémie, mais aussi de montrer les diverses façons dont le patrimoine vivant peut être perçu comme source de résilience et de rétablissement. Dans ces contextes, comme déjà mentionné par le Secrétariat, demain aura lieu un side event virtuel illustrant, parmi d'autres expériences du monde entier, l'activité de la communauté de Cremona, détentrice de l'élément le savoir-faire traditionnel du violon, inscrit dans la liste représentative du patrimoine immatériel. La mairie de la ville et la directrice du musée du violon nous feront partager les expériences et les activités de renforcement des capacités réalisées en collaboration avec l'UNESCO et le ministère italien de la Culture, même pendant la période aiguë de la crise sanitaire. Il s'agit d'une bonne pratique en réponse aux situations d'urgence qui risquent d'affecter les patrimoines intangibles. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. La Palestine.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. وكما وعدتكم سأكون مقتضبا فإن هناك العديد من الزملاء الذين يودون التحدث وأنا أعلم أن أهم ما سيجيء في كل كلامنا هو تثمين والشكر جهود السكرتاريا لهذا التقرير، ليس فقط للتقرير لكن لنشاطاتهم وجهودهم. وقبل أن أختم أود أن أثمن بشكل خاص الاستجابة السريعة لهذه الجائحة التي قامت بها السكرتاريا ومواصلتها لنشاطاتها ومنها بناء القدرات وغيرها، وسنتحدث عن بناء القدرات لاحقا. وأنا أعتبر أن ما نمر به حاليا هو جزء من حالات الطوارئ. هذه الجائحة هي جزء من حالات الطوارئ مثل حالات النزاع المسلحة أو الاحتلال العسكري أو غير ذلك من الأزمات. فبالتالي نحن نثمن ذلك ونتمنى على السكرتاريا مواصلة جهودها. وأخيرا أود أن أذكر أن جميع الدول الأعضاء قد أرسلت رسالات تضامن للأشقاء في لبنان لما تعرضوا له من انفجار رهيب. وبالتالي أنا هنا أود أن أثني وأعيد التذكير بأننا كلنا متضامنون مع لبنان، وأن ننادي على الدول المقتدرة والداعمون بأن يدعموا المشاريع في مجال حماية التراث غير المادي في لبنان وغيرها من الدول المتضررة بكل تأكيد. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
شكرا. البرازيل.
Gracias, señor presidente. En primer lugar, quisiera felicitarlo por su elección y en particular por la forma conciliatoria y fluida con la cual usted está conduciendo esta reunión. Extiendo mis felicitaciones a los miembros del Buró, también electos hoy. Quisiera agradecer en particular al Secretariado por el excelente trabajo hecho en este periodo. Y agradezco también al señor Tim Curtis por la presentación del informe sobre las actividades de la UNESCO que nos ha hecho en este momento. Señor presidente, nos alegra ver, desde la perspectiva de los 17 años de vida de esta convención, el gran progreso logrado en el ámbito de la protección del patrimonio cultural y material. Felicitamos a la UNESCO por las medidas tomadas para enfrentar la pandemia del COVID-19. Sabemos todos el duro golpe que representó y sigue representando para nuestros países y en especial para el sector cultural la actual crisis sanitaria y sus devastadores efectos en la vida de los artistas, artesanos y agentes culturales en el mundo entero. Sin embargo, en muchos países, uno de los elementos más marcados de la resiliencia fue precisamente la cultura inmaterial, con museos, bibliotecas, teatros y sitios históricos cerrados. El patrimonio inmaterial ha buscado su camino a las redes sociales y en los eventos virtuales, difundiendo la música, la danza y la conciencia de nuestras tradiciones, estimulando la creatividad de todos los jóvenes. Dejo aquí nuestro agradecimiento a Colombia y Mauricio por el relato sobre las reuniones del comité que se dieron con capacidad y entusiasmo. Señor presidente, Brasil tiene un firme compromiso con esta convención desde su fase de negociación. El patrimonio inmaterial es tema clave para nosotros. Este año, el programa de salvaguardia del patrimonio inmaterial de Brasil cumple 20 años. Antes de terminar, quisiera dar la bienvenida a los países que acaban de ratificar la Convención y saludar el proceso de revisión de los reportes periódicos cuya primera fase tendrá lugar en América Latina. Consideramos de gran importancia el trabajo hecho por todos los actores de la Convención en el último ciclo. Saludamos el progreso logrado y en términos de reflexión y manifestamos nuestra disposición en trabajar para seguir perfeccionando los mecanismos de gobernanza y de inscripción en las listas de la Convención. Muchas gracias.
Merci beaucoup. La Suisse.
Ayant la parole, nous aimerions bien en profiter tout d'abord pour vous féliciter, Monsieur le Président, ainsi que tous les membres du Bureau pour votre et leur élection. Monsieur le Président, la Suisse tient à remercier le Secrétariat pour son travail de grande qualité, assuré aussi sans faille pendant ces circonstances difficiles. Nous souhaitons relever quelques aspects du rapport et formuler des questions. Premièrement, le lancement de la réforme des rapports périodiques avec la mise en place d'un nouveau modèle est une étape importante. Sa traduction pratique en un formulaire en ligne et en notes d'orientation constituent des outils importants pour les États parties. Comme les États du groupe 3 sont les premiers à préparer leur rapport sous ce nouveau format, est-ce que le Secrétariat compte mener une évaluation et proposer d'éventuelles adaptations en perspective des futurs rapports? Deuxièmement, la réflexion globale sur la nature et les objectifs des mécanismes d'inscription sur les listes constitue un défi majeur. Le suivi de cette réflexion va représenter un investissement important. La Suisse partage l'avis du Secrétariat sur le fait qu'il est essentiel que les réformes du processus reconnaissent et prennent en considération les intentions de sauvegarde des États et des communautés soumissionnaires. Est-ce que ces prises en considération pourraient être assurées par le processus défini ou des consultations complémentaires pourraient-ils s'avérer nécessaires? Troisièmement, le travail thématique d'envergure réalisé sur l'enjeu du patrimoine culturel immatériel en situation d'urgence a permis l'établissement de principes et modalités sur lesquels nous reviendrons au point 9. La trajectoire du traitement de cette thématique par le Secrétariat, qui va désormais évoluer vers des activités opérationnelles,
peut représenter un modèle pour développer d'autres initiatives thématiques. Quelles leçons le secrétariat peut-il tirer de ce processus et comment le traitement de nouvelles thématiques peut-il être entrepris? Finalement, et en anticipant le point suivant de l'ordre du jour, la Suisse reconnaît la nécessité de moyens financiers supplémentaires pour renforcer durablement les ressources humaines du secrétariat. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Merci beaucoup. La Suède.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and congratulations on your election. Sweden would like to thank the Secretariat for this report that shows progress of work in many important areas. We also recognize the efforts to develop new thematic areas and to reflect on the mechanisms and role of NGOs within the Convention. We especially appreciate the activities that have been carried out to inform about and increase the participation of indigenous people in the context of intangible cultural heritage. And we are looking forward to seeing this develop even further. To this, Sweden would like to add the important role of all minority groups in the work within this convention. It is necessary to develop our methods, enabling minorities and indigenous people to be more included in the work with the convention, and this is a responsibility for all of us. The activities of the Secretariat are steps in the right direction, strengthening the diversity of intangible cultural heritage. Sweden also appreciates the Secretariat's work with technological innovations such as online tools, web platforms, and visualizations of intangible cultural heritage, reaching new and more diverse groups all over the world. In light of both Agenda 2030 and the current corona pandemic, we want to underline the importance of finding new ways to arrange international meetings online and reducing travel and physical meetings. Finally, Sweden recognizes that the Secretariat has been able to deliver results despite limited human resources. However, the report clearly shows that the capacity of the Secretariat is indeed limited, and that it remains a challenge to implement all tasks and expectations by state parties. We would therefore encourage other state parties who have the possibility to also support the Secretariat in the implementation of the Convention through extra budgetary funding. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. La République tchèque.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Notre délégation va joindre nos collègues et remercier le Secrétariat pour son excellent travail, son rapport clairement structuré sur son action à long terme, et le félicite pour le nouveau nom de la section Entité du patrimoine vivant. Nous tenons à le remercier tout spécialement pour son activité incessante sur de nombreux champs de la sauvegarde du PCI, particulièrement pour la préparation de la réforme de la soumission des rapports périodiques. Nous sommes convaincus que dans le premier cycle régional de la soumission de ces rapports, il sera un guide fidèle des pays soumissionnaires avant que l'ensemble du mécanisme ne se mette en place. Nous sommes également très heureux de l'augmentation des demandes de l'assistance internationale fructueuse et plus généralement du progrès réalisé dans la mise en œuvre effective de la Convention 2003, qui sans l'aide et l'activité du secrétariat n'aurait pas les résultats mentionnés dans le rapport. Nous apprécions ces activités dans le cadre du renforcement des capacités et de l'éducation au développement durable et dans les autres domaines décrits auxquels se rapportent les différents points de notre réunion. Nous serons heureux d'avoir l'information plus détaillée sur les initiatives très intéressantes du PCI dans le contexte urbain et concernant les liens entre le PCI et le tourisme et les musées. Nous tenons aussi à souligner le renforcement de l'usage de nouveaux outils en ligne qui ont fait leurs preuves, notamment dans la situation actuelle dans laquelle nous nous sommes retrouvés de manière inattendue. Concernant l'initiative du secrétariat relative à la sauvegarde du PCI durant la pandémie, il est assurément louable d'apprendre les différentes activités des États parties, car en ce moment, chacun cherche à s'inspirer sur la manière d'aider efficacement les communautés des porteurs du PCI. La délégation remercie et exprime tout son soutien au secrétariat dans son ensemble pour son approche innovante et efficace pour relever les défis rencontrés lors de la mise en œuvre de la Convention et pour continuer à étendre son impact. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Merci infiniment. La Corée.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I would like to extend my sincere congratulations to you on your election as the chairperson. I am confident that your able leadership will surely guide this General Assembly towards a successful deliberation. The Republic of Korea is grateful for the various administrative and practical support of the Secretariat for the smooth implementation of the Convention for the past 2 years. We would like to reiterate our gratitude for the support of the Secretariat during the process of the joint inscription of traditional Korean wrestling, that is Shirum, on the representative list at the 13th session of the committee. We also thank the members of the committee for its decision on this joint nomination, which has demonstrated to the world the peace-building power of cultural heritage and UNESCO's unique mandate, constructing defense of the peace. We welcome the reforms adopted over the past years for the more effective implementation of the Convention. In particular, we appreciate that the reform of the periodic reporting mechanism has laid the groundwork for the state parties to evaluate and monitor results and impacts of implementation of the Convention. The Republic of Korea, as a financial supporter of the reform, looks forward to the first report of this year from the Latin America and the Caribbean region, and is interested in seeing further progresses as the current system will improve with inputs and reactions from the states. Finally, we hope upstream dialogue process just adopted in the 2019 cycle as a new experimental procedure will be successfully established. We expect that this new procedure will serve to increasing efficiency of the work of the Intergovernmental Committee and enhancing transparency and reliability of the evaluation process. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup. L'Allemagne qui sera suivie par la Chine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I will first catch up with colleagues and congratulate you on your election. And beyond this, I will try to be brief. As most of our points and questions have already been covered by colleagues, notably from Austria, Switzerland, Italy, Sweden, and numerous others. I would start by thanking the Secretariat for what we felt was an excellent and extremely comprehensive report, but also to thank for the extremely high-quality work that lies behind this report. My colleague in capitals have read this report very thoroughly, and so we have two very specific questions. Which is to what extent the respect for animal ethics and also issues related to urban spaces have played a role in the Secretariat's work with regard to intangible culture. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. La Chine, suivie par l'Arménie.
谢谢主席。首先祝贺您当选主席。中方赞赏秘书处过去2年间对推动公约发展做出的努力，特别是推动通过公约成果框架、改革缔约国履约报告机制以及启动全面反思申报机制等。肯定秘书处为适应各种新的需求，在能力建设、非遗与教育等领域所做的探索与尝试。希望进一步完善项目申报和评审机制， 中国将继续为秘书处开展工作提供力所能及的支持，为保护文化多样性做出贡献。谢谢。
Merci beaucoup. L'Arménie sera suivie par l'Azerbaïdjan.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. M'exprimant pour la première fois devant cette Assemblée, permettez-moi de vous féliciter chaleureusement pour votre élection à la présidence de cette Assemblée et de vous souhaiter plein succès dans votre mission. J'adresse également une pensée solidaire à nos frères du Liban suite à la terrible tragédie qui a marqué ce pays au mois d'août dernier. Monsieur le Président, la délégation de l'Arménie tient à exprimer tous ses remerciements au Secrétariat pour le rapport très complet qu'il nous a présenté sur ses activités durant la période concernée. Elle tient tout particulièrement à porter son appréciation pour le travail d'accompagnement qu'il a effectué auprès des organes directeurs et tout le soutien qu'il a apporté pour la bonne mise en œuvre de la Convention. Nous lui savons particulièrement gré pour son implication dans le programme de renforcement des capacités dont bénéficie un grand nombre de pays, notamment pour les aider à mettre en place le nouveau mécanisme de rapport périodique, ainsi que pour son action visant à associer les ONG accréditées à la mise en œuvre de la Convention. Cette délégation souhaite également remercier le Secrétariat pour sa contribution à la réflexion sur les mécanismes d'inscription sur les listes, ainsi qu'au processus de dialogue en amont. Grâce au rôle joué par le Secrétariat, nous avons pris la mesure des progrès réalisés dans le cadre des nouvelles initiatives telles que le patrimoine culturel immatériel dans l'éducation ou encore dans les situations d'urgence. D'autres thématiques s'ouvrent aujourd'hui à la réflexion dans lesquelles le Secrétariat continuera à occuper sa place. Dans ce contexte de crise sanitaire liée à la Covid-19 qui persiste et dont il est difficile de prévoir l'évolution, il importera certainement que le Secrétariat poursuive et accroisse même ses activités en ligne, que ce soit dans le cadre des réflexions déjà engagées autour de certaines thématiques ou de nouvelles thématiques, ou encore dans le cadre de la formation en ligne visant au renforcement des capacités des pays membres. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup. L'Azerbaïdjan, qui sera suivi par les Philippines.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je me rejoins également à mes collègues pour vous féliciter à l'occasion de votre élection. L'Azerbaïdjan tient à remercier le Secrétariat pour le rapport de qualité sur ses activités depuis la dernière session de l'Assemblée générale. Notre délégation constate avec plaisir les résultats du travail du Secrétariat dans de nombreux domaines de son mandat, notamment le renforcement des capacités, l'octroi d'une assistance internationale et l'amélioration des dépenses du Fonds du patrimoine culturel immatériel, ainsi que les premières expériences pratiques du cycle de rapports périodiques en Amérique latine et dans les Caraïbes, malgré les pandémies Covid-19. Notre délégation se félicite des progrès réalisés en ce qui concerne le travail intersectoriel, en particulier la mise en œuvre du programme sur le patrimoine culturel immatériel et l'éducation, et sera très intéressé de voir ce travail se poursuivre au cours de deux prochaines années. Nous encourageons particulièrement le Secrétariat à examiner les possibilités de renforcer ce travail dans le contexte de l'enseignement secondaire et supérieur, ainsi que la formation des enseignants et de l'enseignement, la formation professionnelle et technique, tout en explorant les outils de formation et de sensibilisation en ligne et les méthodes d'échange. Nous sommes convaincus que ce travail est également important du point de vue du maintien du bien-être social et économique des pays et des communautés qui sont maintenant si gravement touchés par la pandémie Covid-19. Enfin, nous félicitons également le Secrétariat pour ses actions dans le domaine du patrimoine immatériel et des situations d'urgence, sur lesquelles notre délégation s'exprimera plus en détail lors de l'examen du point consacré à ce sujet. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. Je passe la parole à Lituanie, qui sera suivie par le Panama.
Thank you, but I think it was Philippines in row for me.
Les Philippines, oui.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you to my distinguished colleague from Lithuania. Thank you. We wish to thank the Secretariat, particularly Mr. Curtis and Ms. Ohinata for this report and their good work. Building on the remarks of our ambassador during the last item, we would like to put forward a number of comments and questions based on the information provided in the report. First of all, regarding paragraph 11, we would like to inquire about the new partnerships with universities that's mentioned. Universities in many states parties may be interested to pursue cooperation on ICH. How many universities were selected? What were objectives of cooperation and partnerships, and the modalities for establishing them would be very useful for us to know. And besides integration into school curricula, are there dedicated university and graduate programs in Intangible Cultural Heritage? Secondly, in what other ways does the Secretariat intend to advance the topic of ICH in education? Delivery of online courses can reach a large number of participants, especially in view of current sanitary measures to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Third, we note with appreciation the online platform established on sharing of experiences cited in paragraph 25. As the world moves hopefully into a recovery and post-pandemic phase, how can ICH be harnessed in a more effective and positive manner to help our societies manage the crisis? In conjunction with the work done on ICH and emergencies, it would be a very timely initiative in our delegation's view to promote these guidance tools for communities and states parties to find strength in ICH during these difficult times. Fourthly, our National Commission for Culture and the Arts is glad to be in discussions with the UNESCO office in Jakarta on a pilot capacity building project on ICH and emergencies, focusing on natural disasters. And we are grateful for the extra budgetary funding provided by Switzerland on this important issue. Our last comments are addressed to the NGO Forum, whom we strongly support. In fact, our delegation was at the last session of the committee, the one that proposed that the report of the NGO Forum become a separate agenda item on the agenda of the committee. And we are glad that this proposal was adopted by the committee last year. To better facilitate dialogue, we would encourage that the report of the NGO Forum to the General Assembly be circulated in advance if possible, and also that side meetings during the General Assembly be organized or even in virtual formats that could enhance cooperation and dialogue and appropriate discussions between NGOs and states parties to safeguard intangible cultural heritage. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Merci beaucoup. Je vous prie de m'excuser, je suis allé un peu plus vite que la musique. La Lituanie suivie par le Panama.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I would like to thank the Secretariat for the report and its addendum, and in relation to this, to the rapid and effective reaction under COVID circumstances in helping, assisting, accompanying member states and their communities in safeguarding their intangible heritage. Lithuania would like to sincerely thank the Secretariat for the substantial support to the work of the governing bodies and the communication during the reporting period. The Secretariat also successfully undertook many actions to support the member states, having started the recently reformed periodic reporting. An impressive quantity of working documents, guidance, notes, and elaboration of capacity building materials has been produced, bearing in mind, especially bearing in mind the situation with the human resources in the Secretariat, as it was mentioned by some delegations as improvable. We appreciate the positive changes related to the international assistance and an increased number of the approved requests. Lithuania supports the efforts of the Secretariat to advocate for the importance of voluntary contributions to the fund in order to continue to support new themes and initiatives of the convention. Various tools launched by the Secretariat are highly valuable, not only for the researchers, but also for the practitioners. We consider that the online toolbox on the links between intangible cultural heritage and sustainable development should be further developed, involving good practices from more countries. We also consider that the integration of the aspects related to intangible heritage in education and research on the intangible heritage in urban contexts are highly important as fields of activity. Thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, le Panama, qui sera suivi par la Finlande.
Gracias, señor presidente. Sean nuestras primeras palabras para felicitarle en su elección como presidente de esta asamblea. Y junto a los colegas que se unen a la mesa de la asamblea, desearles muchos éxitos. Queremos igualmente darle la bienvenida a Kiribati, Singapur, a Isla Salomón y a Somalia como nuevos miembros de la convención. Señor presidente, mi país ratificó esta convención en julio de 2004, es decir, antes de ese primer año, cuando recordábamos al mundo que las tradiciones y expresiones orales, las artes del espectáculo, sus usos sociales, rituales y festivos, los conocimientos relacionados con la naturaleza, integraban en sí valores incalculables para la humanidad. Con nuestra convención se reunía el deseo de muchos estados en asegurar que no se perdiera y se pusiera a resguardo ese valor inmaterial tan apreciado por generaciones pasadas y que han hecho de nuestras sociedades aquello que hoy nos enorgullece. Han sido muchos los intentos de introducir en décadas recientes otras modalidades que flaquean por su autenticidad y poca tolerancia ante diversidades culturales. Muchos de esos han puesto en riesgo la esencia de aquello que hace nuestra sociedad y por lo tanto nos toca unirnos en esta lucha para salvaguardar ese patrimonio. Desde ese 2004 mi país marcó una ruta que hoy seguimos caminando. Nos iniciamos en la organización de los primeros inventarios, la capacitación e información a tantas comunidades y ya para el 2016 presentamos las primeras propuestas a la Secretaría. En el 18 y en el 19 hemos formulado en el marco de buenas prácticas 2 propuestas que reflejan el reconocimiento y la valoración de esa diversidad que define la nación panameña. Hemos inventariado más de 7.000 manifestaciones a partir del interés de comunidades cuyas tradiciones unen los 2 hemisferios de nuestro continente americano, que unen ese mar Caribe con el Océano Pacífico y que por esa conectividad somos y seremos receptores de esa diversidad cultural que integra e incluye ese patrimonio vivo que aporta el desarrollo sostenible de Panamá. Desde el Ministerio de Cultura se están haciendo grandes esfuerzos para respaldar esas iniciativas comunitarias y ha sido de particular importancia que en este periodo de crisis sanitaria las ferias virtuales han logrado que tantos artesanos, industrias creativas sintieran un respiro en un periodo difícil para todos y han participado muchísimas comunidades asentadas, muchas desde hace tiempo y otras recién llegadas. Se ha logrado que esos nuevos residentes que hacen de Panamá su lugar en el mundo se organicen y valoren aún más el aporte que hacen al patrimonio vivo en Panamá. Por ese motivo creemos que fortalecer los trabajos de esta convención no solo suma los esfuerzos locales, sino que aporta un multilateralismo que puede ser una herramienta necesaria ante tantos conflictos en el mundo. Creemos igualmente, señor presidente, que en este intercambio tan valioso que se genera a partir de experiencias en otros polos, se pueden hacer intercambios notables, como han sido hoy presentados en el informe de nuestro amigo Tim Curtis. Proyectos como aquellos que son los retos en el contexto urbano son de suma importancia para nuestra región y en especial en mi país. Queremos agradecerle a la Secretaría toda la colaboración que nos ha ofrecido en este periodo de pandemia. Queremos reiterar las felicitaciones ya expresadas sobre la buena organización de los trabajos que se han llevado a cabo vía videoconferencia para mantener actualizada al personal de nuestros países. Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Merci beaucoup. La Finlande qui sera suivie par l'Ouzbékistan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations on your election. Finland would like to thank the Secretariat for the organization of this meeting in these exceptional circumstances. We also thank both the Secretariat and the committee for the good work they have done in the recent 2 years. We wish to highlight the important role the Secretariat plays in supporting the implementation of the Convention. Despite budgetary challenges, a number of activities has been undertaken to support state parties in capacity building in addition to the statutory work. We very much appreciate the work done in communication and outreach. For example, the website Dive into Intangible Cultural Heritage has widened perceptions of living heritage. The speedy process of gathering more than 200 examples of good practices in living heritage experiences and the COVID-19 pandemic all around the world has shown how crucial a role intangible cultural heritage plays for the communities. The past half a year has challenged us all in many ways, but it has also showed the potential of reaching out and interacting globally in a new efficient manner, including through webinars and online workshops. We hope the Secretariat would also look into these possibilities in their work and communication towards state parties. There is already now good experiences in online training in the new reporting model in the Latin America and Caribbean. Making capacity building, timely topics and processes under the Convention more accessible through online tools would greatly support the whole implementation of the Convention. This would build capacities in safeguarding, strengthen networks among member states and NGOs, and enhance multi-stakeholder participation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci beaucoup. L'Ouzbékistan qui sera suivi par le Japon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to congratulate you and the Bureau members with the election. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation for arranging this very important meeting despite this challenging time. We learned the report of the Secretariat to the General Assembly of the 2003 Convention on its activities, and I would like to commend the outstanding work by the Secretariat in order to promote intangible cultural heritage in all parts of the world. I should stress that Uzbekistan also benefited from these activities. Another unique element of Uzbek intangible cultural heritage, Khwarezm dance Lazgi, was inscribed into representative list during the 14th session in Bogota last year. I would also like to acknowledge the big efforts taken by the Secretariat to help member states to mitigate the negative effects of the pandemic to the areas we're talking about. Indeed, as my colleagues mentioned earlier, the pandemic has become a very tough test to all spheres in human life, including every aspect of culture. In particular, it put institutions and people of intangible cultural heritage in a dire situation. In large part to international cooperation led by many countries and UNESCO, culture sector did not fail. I express my special thanks to all partners in UNESCO and member states who are involved in these noble activities. As we look into the future, in these challenging circumstances, I think the necessity for international support to intangible culture sector will significantly rise, demanding the extension of the reach of capacity building programs, safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in education, further developing innovative online tools, and others. Uzbekistan, as a candidate to the ICH committee in 2022 during the last years, has been making efforts to save and transfer rich intangible cultural heritage for future generations. Last year in Samarkand, together with UNESCO, we organized an international conference on intangible and tangible cultural heritage, which was attended by the Director General. We discussed the issues related to preservation of intangible cultural heritage in Central Asia and beyond. From this standpoint, we stand ready to further support the important steps in implementation of the 2003 Convention. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Merci beaucoup. Le Japon qui sera suivi par les Pays-Bas.
Thank you, Chairperson. Regarding intangible cultural heritage and education, we hope that close intersectoral cooperation with the education sector would go on. And we would like the Secretariat to continue to share with Member States information on these activities. In particular, regarding the cooperation with Education for Sustainable Development, ESD, that fosters builders of a sustainable society. The international framework from this year to 2030, Education for Sustainable Development towards the realization of SDGs, was adopted at the UNESCO General Conference and the UN General Assembly last year as a key enabler for realizing all SDGs. We wish that the Secretariat would continue its intersectoral cooperation in incorporating the ESD philosophy in protecting intangible cultural heritage. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci beaucoup. Les Pays-Bas, suivis par le Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Kingdom of the Netherlands would like to thank the Secretariat for the excellent report and the well-prepared documents. Due to the COVID-19 crisis, this is not the General Assembly that we are used to. We miss the presence of many members of the UNESCO family of this convention, including the family of NGOs, which are so important for knowledge development and initiatives that focus on cooperation. But this doesn't take away anything from the importance of the convention and the safeguarding of ICA's practices and the role of communities, which has become stronger and more important. The COVID-19 pandemic has made this even more visible. It is clear that communities worldwide are affected, but the pandemic has also shown how important communities are for strengthening ICH practices, recovery and resilience. In the Netherlands, for instance, millers worked night and day to meet the demand for flour, for bread during the pandemic. The Netherlands also sees the need for reflection and innovation because progress is made through reflection and innovation. It's time that reflection on the mechanisms of the convention, now that the reporting mechanism is renewed. Reflection on the listing mechanisms will take place at this point. We applaud that. It is important to renew and innovate the convention without losing sight of the initial goals and starting points of this convention. We also underline the importance of online tools, like the Dive into ICH tool. The Kingdom of the Netherlands contributes to the further development of this tool. It is remarkable that increasingly stronger relationships are being built and developed with other themes, such as education, the SDGs, and emergencies. Through this we work on the challenges that humanity is facing. We also see innovative ways in capacity building that are being practiced. Cultural diversity and inclusivity as a goal of the convention is more important than ever and can be shaped precisely through communities and ICH. In this sense, thinking and acting around cultural heritage has been changed and broadened by ICH. The Netherlands attaches great importance to ICH in education and ICH in urban contexts. That is why we would like to ask the Secretariat to elaborate on how it will exchange the diverse experiences that have been gained in projects and surveys, and how these will be shared with educational institutions, UNESCO committees, and other relevant entities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci beaucoup. Le Bangladesh, suivi par les Émirats arabes unis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At first, I'd like to thank you, congratulate you on your election and the other Bureau members. Bangladesh delegation commends and thank the Secretariat for their excellent work and comprehensive written and oral report. We appreciate the work carried out during the 2018 and 19 period in different priority areas, in particular reformation of the periodic reporting mechanism, promoting objectives of the convention, enhancing knowledge management services to improve the governance of the convention, strengthening the capacity building program, and raising awareness of the importance of intangible cultural heritage. We appreciate the policy design support by UNESCO Dhaka office, particularly its digital campaign, Be Creative, which has connected the people with artists and cultural professionals digitally during the COVID-19. We have specific 2 or 3 queries to the Secretariat after learning about the report. We would deeply appreciate if the Secretariat inform us on the update of the global reflection on the listing mechanisms, which is supported by Japan. We understand that Secretariat is in the process of collecting data through a survey on experiencing of living heritage during the COVID-19 pandemic. How local communities, especially practitioners of living heritage and festival artists, such as cultural and religious people, are coping with the COVID-19 pandemic situation. I'd also like to share with you some ideas about Bangladesh on this issue. We have already in our country, we are directly supporting 9,600 artists and 9,600 artists and cultural professionals by providing them support during the COVID-19 pandemic for their practice, to carry on their practice. Thank you so much for your time.
Merci beaucoup. Les Émirats arabes unis qui seront suivis par la Norvège.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. تعرب دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة عن امتنانها للأمانة العامة لجهودها في دعم تنفيذ الدول الأعضاء لاتفاقية 2003. نشيد بجهود اليونسكو وأنشطتها الرامية إلى دعم التفكير والحوار العالمي في طبيعة I think there is a problem with the translation.
Nous n'avons pas d'interprétation, je ne sais pas si vous l'avez en salle. Je vous entends. Oui.
Okay.
Yes.
شكرا سيدي الرئيس. تعرب دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة عن امتنانها للأمانة العامة لجهودها في دعم تنفيذ الدول الأعضاء لاتفاقية 2003. كما نشيد بجهود اليونسكو وأنشطتها الرامية إلى دعم التفكير والحوار العالمي في طبيعة وأهداف آليات لإدراج في القائمة والتحسين على آلية إعداد التقارير الدورية. نأمل أن تراعي الأفكار والمناقشات المتعلقة بالمعايير والمؤسسات المطلوبة للحفاظ على التراث واقع مختلف الدول الأعضاء، حيث أن المجتمع الدولي متنوع ويجب أن تعكس المعايير ذلك. شكرا.
Merci beaucoup. La Norvège, le général à la Pologne.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, et félicitations pour votre élection, ainsi que l'ensemble du Bureau. Allow me to say that we are very happy that the General Assembly is now taking place
in spite of the extraordinary situation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Allow me also to convey the heartfelt regards to the General Assembly on behalf of my colleagues in Oslo, who otherwise would have been physically attending the meeting. Norway would like to thank and commend the Secretariat for its consistently excellent work. The efforts and achievements made by the Secretariat are remarkable, especially in the light of the current extraordinary and difficult circumstances caused by the pandemic. As in the previous biennium, the financial and resource situation of the Secretariat gives rise to concern. The consistently high number of nominations to the listing mechanisms is placing an unproportionate burden on the Secretariat and is threatening to undermine UNESCO's normative work and capacity building activities. In light of this, we would like to express our strong support to the ongoing reflection on the listing mechanisms. We hope the reflection process will lead to new insights that will help us safeguard and ensure the sustainability and the legitimacy of not only the listing mechanisms, but also of the Convention itself. In the forthcoming years, we would like to see a stronger emphasis placed on the role of indigenous peoples and communities in safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. Indigenous peoples and communities play an integral and significant role in such safeguarding. We would like to see a stronger recognition and acknowledgement of this, as well as a stronger degree of their involvement. This would be in the spirit of the Convention, as well as in fulfillment of the SDGs. We stress that the issue of indigenous peoples and communities should be the subject of a consistent emphasis and go beyond mere outreach activities. This should be reflected in work and activity plans. The Convention also has the potential to play an important role in the upcoming UN Decade of Indigenous Languages from 2022 onwards. This should be examined more closely. We would also like to voice a strong support for the work on ICH in emergencies, and would especially like to highlight the role of the Heritage Emergency Fund. Lastly, Norway would like to highlight the great importance of the work of NGOs and encourage the continued and strong involvement. Merci beaucoup.
Merci infiniment. Notre dernier orateur, la Pologne.
Merci beaucoup, Mr. Chairperson. Poland wishes to thank the Secretariat for their dedicated work for the implementation of the 2003 Convention, especially now during this difficult time when the ICH is facing a threat that was not defined before and where there is a need for tools to safeguard and protect both the bearers and the elements itself. We wish to congratulate on the hard work of Mr. Tim Curtis' team and all the activities undertaken, especially for the effort to keep all the procedures going in this difficult time. Moreover, we are satisfied to acknowledge that the increasing number of states have received support through the international assistance mechanism. During the period of the reforms and deeper reflection on the convention mechanisms, we are aware of the fact that the cruciality of the most professional assistance. The report that provided the Secretariat with the list of the key challenges and ways forward was very satisfying. We are especially appreciated the new solutions in promoting its provisions, which is the survey to exchange document experiences of living heritage during the COVID-19 pandemic. In that point, Poland would like to ask some questions. The first one, when the Secretariat is planning to provide the output of the survey, we will be able to note its results before the committee session in December. And the second or third one, is Secretariat planning any further actions regarding the pandemic situation? For instance, online workshops dedicated to ICH in emergencies, not forgetting, of course, that online solutions are one of many, as many communities, groups, and individuals are not confronted during this unprecedented situations with the threat of digital exclusion. Thank you.
Merci infiniment. Nous avons épuisé la liste des orateurs. Malgré la grande satisfaction de la plupart des États membres, je pense que M. Curtis, vous devriez répondre à de nombreuses questions. Je vous donne la parole.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Et chers délégués, d'abord, je voudrais remercier les mots d'encouragement qu'on a reçus de beaucoup d'entre vous, qui sont importants, effectivement. Et je le dis vraiment, pas seulement de ma part, parce que c'est moi que vous voyez, mais derrière moi, il y a toute une équipe de gens qui travaillent très dur et qui ont travaillé chez eux en confinement pendant 3 mois. Ils ont travaillé plus que d'habitude, je dirais, pour justement pouvoir s'assurer que cette convention continue d'abord à fonctionner et contribue à la situation à laquelle on est face. There are some questions that were asked, specific questions by specific delegations. I'll try to come to them. But there were some emerging themes that came up, I think, quite a bit. And if I will, there was a couple I've identified. One was the issue of intangible cultural heritage and education and the working intersectorally. A number of you mentioned about the opportunities and issues around capacity building, particularly related to online modalities of delivery. And then there's there was also a couple of questions about ICH in urban contexts. So maybe I'll just say a few things quickly in general about them, and then I'll try to answer a couple of specific questions that were asked. The work on ICH in education is going going forward very well. And I will say that most of the progress is being made as was intended and as is to be expected by our colleagues working in field offices. I thank, for instance, the delegation of Japan for mentioning education for sustainable development. Others are working on global citizenship education issues. And the reason we are trying to work mainly through the field offices is because, of course, we must respond to the various array of education issues that different countries are facing in different parts of the world with different emphasis. What I can say, and this has been very encouraging since we've launched this, is we've had a really good response from our colleagues in the education sector. There has been a growing understanding that the concerns of us in ICH meet the concerns of the colleagues in education, particularly under, for instance, SDG 4.7, but also elsewhere. So there is, if I may say, over the last couple of years, a kind of change in the dynamic where we're seeing better intersectoral cooperation. Of course, our ability to deliver is limited by our human and financial resources. So we have a number of projects, again, most of them being done by field officers in different parts of the world, also through regular program as well as extra budgetary funds. We continue to seek support, particularly this kind of joint intersectoral support to implement real programs, because it is through the real projects that we learn and we refine and we advance. So yes, we have some projects that come under the umbrella of Educational for Sustainable Development. We have others that come under other educational interests. TVET is an area we are looking to get into as well, which has lots of possibilities for ICH in education. I would just like to say we see it and we put it forward not just as heritage education, but using living heritage as a way also of improving education, of improving quality of education and relevance of education. So if we can keep this program going and keep expanding it, then I think we get two benefits. We get a benefit for enhancing the transmission of living heritage, as well as a benefit for a better and more relevant and contextualized education. And I think, if I may, having discovered this, colleagues working in both sectors have seen a joint interest, and it's quite positive in the way it's going forward. A number of you also mentioned questions about online training. And there is a famous quote that necessity is the mother of invention. So this year we had no choice but to deliver our capacity building online, and we had to learn very quickly that in order to deliver capacity building online, we had to adapt it substantially. I think many of us will have what some are referring to as Zoom fatigue, that there's only so many hours per day that you can keep concentrated in a Zoom meeting in the same way you might be able to interact in person. So when we learned particularly from the periodic reporting capacity building for Latin America and the experience of transforming a 3-day workshop into a 6-week interaction, a couple of hours a week, which allows people, they don't have to travel, they allows them to have time to digest the information and come back. We found it to be very successful. Going forward, I imagine and I hope we'll be using these experiences to develop online, hybrid, and presential capacity building. There is still something about people meeting, which is valuable, but there's no doubt that the online training has opened up all sorts of possibilities, including the possibility to reach many more people at less cost. So we take note of all your interventions in this. We are learning and we have some positive results already, and we intend to keep going forward on that side. There were some questions about intangible cultural heritage in urban context, and I think Germany, I didn't hear the first part, but it was something about to what extent something affects urban spaces, living heritage affects urban spaces. We have been progressing now on the intangible cultural heritage in urban context through projects and through some research. It is an area we intend to go forward further on, both in terms of inventories in urban settings, but perhaps very importantly also how to integrate these inventories and the research of ICH into urban planning. Heritage planning has tended to be seen only as built heritage spaces, but there's a growing awareness in a number of countries. And I think perhaps of our host last year of the committee, Bogota, Colombia, that's done a lot of work on this, on identifying spaces where people are living, are practicing their living heritage in urban contexts, and then safeguarding them under urban planning mechanisms or regional planning mechanisms. We are currently also, as part of UNESCO's response to the Li Beirut project, we are also now currently doing work to try to identify which areas, alongside our colleagues working on the built heritage and in museums, try to identify which areas in Beirut that people may have used for living heritage purposes. They may not be monumental areas, but they may be spaces, parks, streets, where people play music, where people tell stories or whatever, so that they don't get forgotten in the reconstruction plan and that they become part of it. So we will continue to develop this work on living heritage in urban context, which is very important. I understand Switzerland had a number of questions. Some of them, I think, will be dealt with under, such as ICH and emergencies, will be dealt with under other items. So I won't address it right now, if that's okay. But the first question was whether there will be further report to the periodic, further reform to the periodic reporting. Obviously, the reform effort was intense, so I hope we don't have to do as substantial a reform as we've done. But I do expect that we will be doing some improvements and some tweaking and some lessons learned. We've had, and the experience is not over yet, but we've been working very well with the Latin American colleagues this year. There will be a bit of a delay, obviously, due to the intensity of the pandemic in their region. There will be a delay in submitting, so there'll be some lag, but overall we'll catch up to the statutory cycle. Next year we will be working with the Europe region, so we'll also be bringing the lessons learned. But by going region by region, we expect a 5-year cycle, and then we have a reflection year, and at that stage we'll really be able to assess overall what may be needed. It is my hope that we don't have to do as an intense reform effort again, but certainly improvements. I think the other questions mainly related to other agenda items from Switzerland, so I won't address them just here. Philippines also asked some questions, namely around the network of universities. Just to, again, what we've been trying to do for some years now is to encourage universities indeed to do general programs on living heritage at postgraduate level, because although there are several programs that may have to do with music or with performing arts or other areas or anthropology or linguistics, There are very few programs that are generically teaching ICH or safeguarding of living heritage as a multidisciplinary entity. So we have been working, again, mainly with our field officers in trying to bring together universities who may be interested in developing those programs. We've supported regional surveys on how universities are integrating ICH in their programs, and we've been supporting that networking among them, including sometimes with, in partnership with Category 2 centers. We've done surveys in Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin America, as well as Africa, and we're now doing one in the Arab states. All of these reports are available online, and you can see them on the website of the convention. The surveys themselves are created to new spontaneous networks supported by Category 2 centers, particularly in Asia and the Pacific. And finally, just to let you know, we're also developing a MOOC at the moment to reach out to new audiences. The study on potential partnerships for living heritage, for capacity building, is to project forward. And I think this comes to something also a number of delegates mentioned, which I appreciate, is the resources of the Secretariat. And if I may say, what we have is a situation where demand for this convention continues to grow at a time when the institution isn't necessarily growing consequently, so we struggle. It's a good problem to have because it means there is a demand out there for living heritage. So we need to look at, and particularly in our capacity building, at one stage the demand will and naturally so, outweigh the capacity of us in the Secretariat to deliver that program. So what we need to do is build partnerships so that we have others delivering, and that's what we were trying to do in that research. I'm just trying to see if there are other specific questions. Again, many of these, the questions about reform of the listing mechanisms, we have a specific agenda item on that, so perhaps I don't need to go into them now. And we also have a specific agenda item on ICH and emergencies, so I won't go into that now. Finally, we just had some questions recently about the results of the survey we did with the ICH and COVID. No, the situation is not over. The pandemic itself is not over, so we continue to see what's happening, and we will continue to collect information as much as we can and to understand and to reach out. We intend to give either a final report or an update. It's hard to know. At what stage can we say the situation is over? We're not in a position. So we will give an update anyway at the committee. Whether that's the final report or not, I can't say. I invite you to, again, join in the online discussion side event tomorrow to hear experiences. We have a snapshot which gives you what we found so far, and we will continue and give more information by the time of the committee. Monsieur le Président, je ne sais pas si j'ai répondu à toutes les questions, mais je tiens beaucoup à remercier les délégations qui nous ont soutenus et qui nous ont donné des mots d'encouragement qui pour nous sont rassurants, que nous travaillons sur la bonne voie et que nous allons essayer de continuer de faire pareil. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
C'est moi qui vous remercie et je remercie tous nos collègues, tous les États membres d'avoir apprécié ce que vous avez fait, ce qui facilite notre tâche sur les deux projets de résolution que vous nous avez soumis. Je pense que nous pourrions, au lieu de les scinder en une première partie, une seconde partie, approuver les deux en même temps, surtout que la numérotation, si j'ai bien lu, se poursuit dans l'addendum qui va jusqu'au point 13. Donc, avec votre permission, si vous n'y voyez pas d'inconvénient, s'il n'y a pas d'objection, je vous suggère qu'on approuve les deux projets de résolution qui sont affichés maintenant sur les écrans. Je ne vois pas d'objection. Monsieur le secrétaire, félicitations. Adopté.